So probably one of the most stubborn things to fix in the golf swing is early extending in the downswing. So when you're coming into impact, that pelvis is driving forward towards the golf ball. Now it can really cause some horrible shots, as we know, but why most golfers really struggle to fix it is because they're not finding or addressing the root cause. They're just generally trying to fix it by keeping the pelvis back moving through the golf ball. But early extension is something that is always caused by something that's happened earlier in the golf swing. So if you're not addressing that root cause, you will never fix this problem. So what I'm going to do in this video, guys, I'm going to address the 3 most common reasons to why we early extend in a downswing. And once we know those root causes, and then we can properly go and fix this problem. And after we know that, it's actually quite an easy problem to fix. So I'm Jonathan Chan with JChownGolf. Let's get into these 3 reasons why we early extend. So the first reason we're going to address here to why people early extend in the downswing is all about setup. This is such a common one in lessons. This is so common where someone will be chronically coming down in their downswing, early extending, but they're not realizing that their posture is going to create this move to happen. So what I see quite a lot of times is a lot of golfers having such a massive amount of hip kind of bend at setup where they're really hinging overly from their hips to where their upper body, where their armpits are, is directly over in front of their toes there. So you can see how the mass of my upper body is in front of my lower body. So what happens from there? When our upper body is so much over our lower body, it's going to act like a balancing act in our golf swing. We're going to be getting up to the top of the backswing, turning. One, we're going to find it hard to turn in our backswing being so far over in front of our lower body. From there, we're not going to be able to turn and rotate in the downswing, keeping our posture, because our weight's going to be too much onto our toes. So what our body will naturally do to keep its balance while swinging at speed in a downswing will be to shift the pelvis forward just to keep the balance going through, the downswing. Keep your balance there properly. Imagine here, you're on a tightrope. So you're on a tightrope trying to keep your balance. Now we can make the golf swing as an analogy to that because we're swinging at speed, we've got to balance ourselves in the golf swing. If I am on this tightrope now and my upper body is really going over my toes, what's going to happen? I'm going to immediately kind of shift my upper body back to regain my balance, because if I keep my upper body here, I'm going to fall off the tightrope. So my body has now got to do this movement to really keep its balance. Same thing in the golf swing. If our upper body is so much over in front of our toes, I'm going to have to do this because I'm swinging at speed in the downswing to keep my balance. Otherwise, I'm just going to fall over on top of my toes. It's not the ideal way to do. Now, the way to fix this, guys, is quite simple. It feels funny, but imagine, let's say, the setup of someone like Jack Nicklaus, for example. Now, with Jack Nicklaus, if you see him or golfers from that era, they will be setting up in a very similar way. Hardly any of them, ironically, other than Jack Nicklaus, for other reasons in the golf swing, no. Most of those golfers from that era didn't early extend. Jack Nicklaus being a little bit of an exception there. So let's say Sam Snead, for example, for a better example. So you'll see Sam Snead at setup. You'll see him there and he will have his armpits directly over the balls of his feet. We'll see this. Think of a modern guy, Matthew Wolf, for example. Armpits dead over the balls of the feet. Now, that is my mass of my upper body being now managed by my lower body. I'm not with my upper body and my weight too much over my toes. So now I can turn up to the golf at the top of the backswing, and now because my upper body is on top of my lower body, I can now turn in the downswing in better posture without the fear of losing my balance. So I want to get to this point in my setup where I have got less hip bend. I want to set up to the golf ball with really my armpits now over my balls of my feet here. That's my goal. So how I do this is I set up to the golf ball with slightly bent legs there. I'll have a fairly straight lower back, but I will slightly round my upper back to where now I'm over the balls of my feet. You'll see all guys from this era from back in the day have that same posture. It looks like poor posture, but generally we move dynamically in the golf swing at speed. We are not sitting here in a stationary, like let's say a goalkeeper in soccer or football, depending where you're from. I'm not here waiting to receive a ball coming and being kicked at me, am I? I'm moving dynamically in a golf swing. I'm not staying stationary. I want to be priming my body to move dynamically. So being in this athletic type of posture here will not work because I've got to maintain my balance Golf swing's a dynamic move, it's continually moving. So we've got to have this better posture. Armpits over the balls of your feet. If you're someone out there, draw some lines down from your armpits down to your foot on a swing software, and you'll see whether this is a problem for you or not. So that's the first one there, guys. The saying is, of a golf instructor you might be familiar with as George Gankist, coach of Matthew Wolf, all other type of players out there, new modern players. His saying is, get in bad posture to get into good posture at impact, and it is so true. So that's the first one there, and that's really about your posture at setup. Right, let's get into the second one here, and this is really common. So let's get rolling to that. So the second reason here, guys, is all about your body's management of the shaft in the downswing. So this is a shaft pitch related one. So let's say I'm coming down in my downswing and my shaft is coming down very, very steep here. Now, if I was to continue and stay in my posture with a shaft that's standing up quite vertical, and I'm just going to rotate through, you're going to see how one, my angle of attack is going to be straight down into the ground, and two, my path is generally going to be going to the left here. It's going to be quite out to in if I maintain that steep shaft by staying in my posture. So what my body does, and it happens massively with people who steepen the shaft. When you steepen the shaft in the downswing, for your body to now get that club onto the golf ball with a good angle of attack and have a decent kind of less out to in path, watch what happens to my body. I'm going to try and get this shaft to pitch behind me without manipulating it with my arms. See me standing up, how that's getting the shaft now shallow, but really late in my golf swing. So it's sorting out my angle of attack and it's getting that club moving back on path. I'm extending, I'm moving my pelvis forward, I'm moving my upper body backwards, all straightening up together, and that's getting my steep shaft to pitch behind me. It's so common seeing guys down there, first part in transition with about left arm parallel to the ground in the downswing, steep shaft, and you'll see straight away afterwards, body raising up to get that club back onto the golf ball in a somewhat functional manner. So you can imagine there, we've got to fix the steep shaft so that body won't try to compromise itself to be able to get onto the ball with a decent shaft angle. So you can imagine, that's the top of the backswing, let's shallow that shaft. Center of mass is pitching behind me now. Now I can just freely rotate through the golf ball, stay in my posture, and I haven't early extended because that shaft position in the downswing has enabled my body to do the movements I want to do. Steep shaft, if I continue to stay in my posture, it's not going to work out. So really there, I'm going to do a whole nother video on reasons that you steepen the shaft. There's many reasons. Most common one I see is golfers with their right elbow. So for a right-handed golfer, their right elbow, trail elbow, getting behind them, stuck behind them in a downswing. That will cause that shaft to stand up going down. So an easy little drill here. We want to be able to get this elbow back in front of our body. You can see as soon as I get the elbow going in front of me, the shaft shallows, doesn't it? So an easy drill here to do, guys, one without the golf ball, just to feel this move. Grab the club head just like this, pull it down and up your right hand side of your trail arm there. See how I'm gripping it with my left hand as well, up to the top of the backswing, and now I'm pulling it through. See how I'm pulling it through in the downswing. I'm not letting it get behind me, I'm pulling it through in front of me. It's stretching out my shoulder joint, it's getting me in those nice moves. If I was doing that with the golf ball or with the club in my hand, shallowing the golf club, now I can turn through the ball in my posture and not early extend. So that's that second one. Steep shaft, like I said, there's many reasons to why you can steep it. There will be a video in the future, exactly same type of concept, reasons to why you're steepening the shaft, but that will cause you to early extend. So let's get on to the last one. And the last one, again, is common, very common. So this will be a lot of you again out there. So make sure you hang around and watch that one because this could be you. Right, the last reason, the third reason here, guys, and these are the main ones in there. There are definitely more than this out there that make you early extend. But here we go. So this is getting up to the top of the backswing. So this is a top of the backswing position related one. Getting up to the top of the backswing, and we are just lifting those arms up to complete our backswing. No turn of the lower body, no hardly any turn of the upper body. We're completing our backswing through just raising the hands up. This is called a lack of depth to the hands at the top of the backswing. Now, why will this lack of depth to the top of the backswing, why would this cause an early extension? Because when my hands are very much over the mass of my body here, when I rotate in the downswing to start my transition, the hands will always be pushed out with our body's rotation. To give you an example, let me straighten out my arm, get up to the top of my backswing. Not going to do anything at all with my hand. I'm going to rotate in the downswing. Look where my hands and arms go. It goes out in front of me. My hands and arms follow the rotation of my body. So if I haven't got too much depth at the top of the backswing, I rotate in the downswing, my hands are going to be forced very much out in front of me. If now, with the hands so far out in front of me, if I continue to rotate, again, just like the steep shaft a little bit, I'm going to be swiping across that golf ball. I'm going to be hitting really, really out to in. So for a golfer up here to be able to make this work, what they will do, they'll be coming down the downswing. Usually they will start backing back with their left shoulder raising up like this straight away, tilting backwards. But they've got to then make another move of extending the pelvis forward, really driving it forward again, like the steep shaft, to get that club moving back on a better path. Because if I didn't compromise my rotation by my pivot, by moving and extending, driving my hip forward, I'll just swipe across the ball. So you can see as soon as I put this pelvis forward, I'll do nothing else. See how now the club shallows behind me a little bit, doesn't it? And it also falls back on path again. So this is a way that it's path management type of thing, where ultimately, if we got up to the top of our backswing with good depth here, so we know a lack of depth to those hands is because we're not rotating our body. We're just completing our backswing with our hands and arms, just lifting up. If I turn my body now, just like rotation in the downswing forces hands outwards, rotation in the backswing forces hands in and around. We're swinging on an arc around our body. We've got to swing around us. So you're going to see here, I'm swinging around my body and I'm just making sure my lower body is turning and I'm really getting some rotation up here. Immediately, I'm in a better position of my depth. You can see my hands now, instead of being right over my body, they're more in line with my heels or my ankles. Now again, I can rotate in the downswing and the hands aren't being pushed too far out in front of me. So I can continue to rotate and boom, I get back on the ball functionally. All of early extending here, guys, is to make you hit the ball to your target somewhat more consistently. It's because of something else in your golf swing that's forcing you to do it. If we get in positions in our golf swing where we can rotate freely onto the golf ball and not have it, be of a detriment to, hitting the ball, not to our target, we want to be hitting the ball to our target, then we can finally fix early extension. So once we figure out the root cause, then we can work on all those early extension drills we want, like with a chair back here, keeping the pelvis on it. We can do all them we want. So ultimately, we've got to make sure these variables are in place. Like if it's lead arm depth, we want to be making sure or hand depth to the top, we're making sure we're rotating going back to get that depth up there. So then we can stay in our posture and rotate and have a good functional path. So like I said, guys, there are more reasons to that, but those are the most common ones I see more often in lessons. So really what you want to be doing, figure out what one it is for you, and then make sure you really get some grinding on that, and then you can work on the early extension drills just like we said. So if you found that helpful, guys, make sure you click that like button. It really helps my channel out a lot. And if you want more golf instruction just like this, click that subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So really get some good practice in with this, and like I said, there's going to be a steep shaft kind of video out there soon. If you're more curious about that topic, that'll be coming very soon. So figure this out, guys, get that in there and you'll really be on your way to not early extending finally.